Hey everyone, this is Carrie Cropley from SED 201 and I am doing my interview project and I'm going to just do it this way. I can't figure out how to get the audio uploaded, so just bear with me and I'll read through my questions and some of the comments that I had myself. The person I chose to interview has been in special education for 20 plus years. This person is the head special education teacher in grades 7 through 12. I chose this person for my interview to help me better understand the difference between the elementary special education, where I have more personal work experiences, and the secondary special education, where I'm currently working now and working with a lot of students on a daily basis. And as I stated before, this person is the lead special education teacher in the school that they work in. First question: what is the best way you've found to communicate with parents? And I chose this question to see what type of communication the school and or the teacher uses, whether it was a text message or a notebook sent home every day, or email, or just letter in the mail, or picking up the phone and calling the parent. And the answer was, I use email, but mostly I call the parent when I have concerns. I've used a notebook for daily correspondence as well. I was glad to hear that. I really feel the best form of communication, when it's important communication, is to pick up the phone and make contact with the person directly, so you can hear their tone, they can hear your tone, and you can dispel any myths that might be stuck in from a tone of a text message or an email. So I thought that was really a really good answer. Question number 2: how do you work with a parent or guardian who disagrees with your teaching methodology? Answer: well, you do what the parent wants. I try to get a good relationship with parents right away at the beginning, so we are all on the same page. This question, I assume, happens more often than not, where teachers and parents or the staff of the school become an easy outlet. Not an easy outlet, easy target, an accessible one, because your student is here 5 days a week. I was looking for tactics to use with my own students, and eager to learn myself what others do in this case. I agree with the answer 100%. Being on the same page is crucial to any relationship if it's going to be successful, and it made perfect sense to me. Next question: what qualities must one have to be an effective special education teacher? The answer: patience, patience, and more patience. You also have to be willing to accept that everything is not going to work. You can have a fabulous lesson plan, but if the kids have had a bad night or a bad morning, your fabulous lesson plan is tossed out the window. Always an interesting question, almost makes one stop and think along with self-reflect. I do agree with the answer. However, I was hoping for more detailed information, tactics that were used. Patience, in my mind, is the key to working and dealing and raising children, period, regardless if they're in special education or not. So that answer, once again, made perfect sense to me. What is the biggest challenge about working in special education? Answer: my biggest challenge is getting everyone's needs met. You can have one student reading 6th grade level on a 6th grade reading level, and you can have one reading on a 1st grade reading level. Getting kids to do homework is a challenge, so I don't give any. I was curious to see what the answer to this question was going to be, and if it can be nailed down to one topic. And I was hoping for the answer other than a monetary issue, which I know it wouldn't be, but in some instances it could be, I suppose, if it's just a job. Somebody looked at it that way. But I think, and I assume, the biggest challenge for a special education teacher or anyone working in the system is that there's not enough qualified people to come and help them, so they're overwhelmed with large caseloads of students. But it makes sense to me. The answer, I've often wondered that, how do you teach effectively to students that have enormous learning differences, whether it be math or reading, from a 1st grade to a 6th grade level? How do you teach them all at the same time? So the answer really clicked in my head. Next question: do you prefer students to be present at IEP meetings? Why or why not? And I asked this question because I've seen it done both ways. And I was curious with teenagers how the teacher felt about this matter, and the answer was, I prefer them to be at their meetings. It is their education we're talking about. Transition plans are based on what they want to do after high school. Kids don't like coming because they think the meeting will be all negative. I never thought of that. I think it's a great idea to include them just so they can be there to talk for themselves about what they may want to do and what they like, what they don't like, what could help them, because the student knows themselves best. But I didn't think they'd have the mindset coming in right from the get-go that the meeting was going to be all negative. So that was a real eye-opener for me, so I'm glad I asked that question. Question number 6. What types of technology or assistive technology do you use regularly? Answer being, we have laptops, iPads, calculators. I use counters for math and dice, etc. We really don't use a lot of technology, mostly paper and pencil work. This is something that was new to me just from taking the SED 201 with the different assistive technology and technology that can be used to help someone with a diagnosis that would need that. So I was curious what the answer was going to be. I was hoping for more detailed information. However, the counters and the paper and dice made perfect sense to me too, and those are sensory things. Next question, how do you feel about having special education students being separated from other students and their peers? Answer, it's a case-by-case situation. I try to put them in regular ed classes as much as possible with support. It doesn't work out for all of my students. A lot of special ed kids have attendance issues, which makes keeping up in regular ed classes very difficult. This was another question I was really curious about, just on a personal level, how they feel about either segregating special ed students or trying to keep them in the regular ed classroom as much as possible, which I would hope that would be their answer. And I never thought clicking with, I guess, the special ed so much, just in the generic world of education right now. Absenteeism is a hot topic, and the state is buckling down on everybody, and we're going to have certain time frames to try to get the absenteeism rates dropping at our schools, and it's a huge epidemic in the state of Maine, absenteeism. It is, and I didn't click to me that her answer would be that would be one of the main reason why students are not allowed in the special ed classroom. But it makes perfect sense once again. It's been a great learning opportunity for me. Next question, how do you motivate students to do challenging assignments and tasks? Answer, that's a hard one. Easier for high school because if they don't do the work, they don't get the credit. And if they don't get the credit, they do not graduate. You need to know your students. They may be having a bad day and might need to do that work the next day. Always, always have a backup plan. And I think that answer hit the nail right on the head. I chose this question just to see what tactics are used. Tried and true tools that I can use professionally and with my children as well. Why reinvent the wheel if somebody's doing something that works? So selfish reason I asked that, but and that's a good point. The end goal is graduation. So in counseling and for years with my patients, I always use motivational enhancement therapy or contingency management. So you always had some task you needed completed for this person, and you had some positive end result that was going to come out of it. And I mean, the diploma is definitely that, and I can see that, you know, the contingency management would work well in special education. Describe one of your most challenging students and how you handle them. The question that we all want to know. We all want to ask, and we want specifics, just to see and to learn. So we've all heard stories, I'm sure. Answer, well, I had a violent young man, and all you can do is have MANT training or some other kind of violence training. He wiped everything off my desk. The first is safety of the other students. You remove them from the classroom, wait for the student to calm down, then you remove that student to a safe spot. Usually call the parent to come take them home, and if they reside at the unit, you have a caseworker come and get them. And I was curious, and I asked this question just to see, after someone that had been working in the school system for a very long period of time, if her answer was the same 5 years ago, 10 years ago, if it's changed, differences in their approaches and what they were based on, but I do agree with this answer. I'm not sure MANT is, in some situations, is going to be the best training to use in extreme situations. I agree with clearing the classroom, making sure the student that's having the violent episodes not in harming themselves in any way, and you wait for them to calm down, and you do call the parents, and you just give them the space, and everybody has a cool down time, because everybody gets worked up when something like that happens. And I think it's a good time to give everyone space, cool down, Try it again the next day. Question 10. What positive reinforcement interventions and supports do you use? Answer. iPad or computer time. Games 2. We do left, right, center with candy. We use the Wii. If they've earned it. In gym time, they like shooting around if no one's in the gym or just walking around the gym. And I asked this question to see what they used and what they had for tools and supports. And left, right, center surprised me, but it clicked in my head. You know, if you make it fun, and especially if you're using candy. For those of you who don't know what it is, it's just a little tiny dice game you can get at Walmart for $6 or $7. And kids love it. My kids love it. Every kid that comes to my house loves it. I'm not sure what it is. Maybe it's just the dice sensory thing, but that was a great, great tool to use. And the Wii makes sense to me too. But the gym time, I have almost 2 different sets of children. I have teenagers, college level, and I have my youngest is in fifth grade, and I just see the shorter amounts of gym time that they're getting compared to my older children. I see recess not being as important with my younger children as it was with my older children. And I personally feel as a parent that gym time and that recess time is so crucially important. And I think if schools could find a way to incorporate that a little bit more like they used to be, there would be a lot less issues on so many different levels. But of course, that's just my personal opinion. Okay, last question. How do you keep disruptive students focused? Well, I mean, this is one of those questions we all want to know. What the professionals do, how you do it, how often you do it, how did you learn to do it, and who, what, when, where, how, why, you know, all those questions. Answer being, you just have to keep saying focus to the student over and over. Focus, focus, focus. Whatever is going on with them at that time, you try to let them get it out of their system, and hopefully they will come around. If they're interrupting other kids from learning, they need to be removed from the classroom. And then I try to see if I can find out what's bothering them. And that makes perfect sense to me. Someone's being disruptive and out of their normal behaviors, something's triggered that, something's going on. Try to get them to calm down, to focus, get the answer out of them. And if it doesn't work, we'll try it again tomorrow. And I also ask that question myself too, because a lot of the students that I work with on a daily basis have been sent out of the classroom either because they're not feeling well, they've got something going on at home and can't focus, or they're being disruptive. So something I'm seeing and working with every day, so I was curious of what tactics were used. So, in conclusion, a few observations from my interview include that special education teachers are more personally involved with their students versus regular classroom teachers. I am not minimizing what a regular classroom teacher does at all. I see the relationship with the student and the teacher being a little bit different on a way more personal level. And that teacher from special ed doesn't have 30 kids in their classroom, and this teacher in special ed maybe might have 3 or 4, and they're spending one-on-one time or 5-on-1 time, whatever the situation may be, for 6 hours a day. It is different. And after my interview, I also came to the conclusion that there are major differences between 2 levels of teaching and the needs of students on each level. From the information received, reviewed, and processed, I will have a better understanding of the secondary special education students and the staff that I work with. This was a great opportunity for me, and I was very glad that I was able to do this. And one last observation was, in the middle of my interview, a former student of this teacher's came in that had graduated last year, that had no reason to come and visit, has no real connection except that bond that was created from being with that student for 4 years, potentially 5 or 6, in whatever school setting, if it's a 7 through 12 school or a 9 through 12, but just came in to say hi and get a hug. I mean, that was huge to me, spoke volumes. So that is my interview, and thank you for bearing with me with these videos.